In my last video, Beware of the Psychopaths, I talked about a boss who turned out to have all the traits of a psychopath and how hard I worked at getting rid of her. It was nearly an impossible feat because the corporations, I found, favor psychopathic behavior. I just could not take any more of this charming but sadistic bully. I tried everything I could to get rid of this woman. I tried to see the vice president of our campus to tell him what was going on because he had asked at a meeting why our unit needed temporary help for the first time. I thought it better to speak to him in private. His administrative assistant said he wasn't available, but the HR director was. The HR director showed up visibly nervous and lying his ass off. He said, "You can't see the VP because he's in a meeting. In fact, he's in meetings all week. In fact, he's going to be out of town all week, right?" he asked the administrative assistant, nodding his head up and down. She looked bewildered, but slowly nodded yes. Several months later, she said she went to work for our competition because she was, and I quote, tired of feeling like she was working for the mafia. When I suggested to the HR director I would go find help elsewhere, the HR director acted like he was going to work with me. He said he would be my advocate with the administrator of the unit. But he confused the word advocate with adversary. He tried to convince me to quit, using the analogy of the Old West. Maybe it's like the Old West. This town just isn't big enough for the two of you. Have you thought about quitting? Well, one of us needs to leave, but it sure the hell wasn't me. I left the office saying I was just going to have to find help somewhere else. The next night I worked, the administrator and the HR director made a surprise visit to our floor. At first, they acted like they were there for a different reason. It was just to catch me off guard. After a bit, they wanted to talk to me, acting all pleasant, like it was for something good. The HR director was visibly shaking and had fear in his eyes, but the administrator was quite calm. The HR director kept asking, "Do you like your job?" Well, yes. "Then you need to stop talking about the DON. But she's the one making it difficult to do our jobs." And he said again, "Do you like your job?" Well, yes. "Then you need to stop talking about the DON. Do you know what I mean?" Well, this exchange kept going on for a while until the idiot administrator just came right out and said it. "You're going to lose your job if you don't stop complaining about the DON. I just calmly said, "The next time I talk to you two, it'll be with a lawyer. Now, if you will excuse me, I have work to do." Now, unfortunately, in the U.S., it isn't against the law to psychologically abuse your employees, but it is against the law to impede on our constitutional rights. That's right. Even corporate slaves have constitutional rights. I mean, who knew? I filed a federal lawsuit with the National Labor Relations Board and won. I didn't win big since I didn't have any actual solid evidence or any corroborating testimony, since everyone else was too afraid to back me up. I did have one woman say, "I'll pray for you." Why didn't I think of that? Just pray the bitch away. Well, what I did have was a notebook filled with documentation and had caught them off guard when I followed through with my threat. And they had admitted they had said that to me, but they tried to make it sound like it wasn't really all that bad. But that didn't matter. What they did was still against the law. What I had won was special federal protection against harassment, which enabled me to keep trying to get rid of this psychopath. Since everyone tried so desperately to keep the VP out of the loop, I felt like I could trust him. I snuck into one of his meetings and approached him when the meeting was over. A week later, both the DON, and the administrator were fired. Not because they were abusing the staff, but because they were found to be embezzling. That's right, money is important, but people, on the other hand, are expendable.